What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Living My Life. Today, we're going to talk about a lot. Okay? Yeah. I testify for you. I do that 3-4 times again. I testify for you. I'm so that like you, that bitch, I do it. Oh, I won't cry, you get it. I'm not. Long if you joking, now answer me. I ain't got it. I wanted to make a video today. Just talking about how I manifested my career and how I got to where I am. It's so befitting for many reasons. I just celebrated a year here in Arizona. What I call Faith Day 2020, is coming up February 26th or February 20th or 26th, one of those. I don't really know. I am a yapper. If you can't tell already, I am a yapper. I do talk a lot. I'm going to try to give you guys as much context as I can without over talking. We'll see. We'll see. But bear with me. This is a positive story. There are ups and downs. And ultimately, if you are in the process of like figuring out your life, figuring out your career, whether you're a new grad or adult, or you haven't even entered the space yet into needing to figure out your life, I mean, I think this could be for you, positive, and give you some tips along the way while you're in the process of figuring all that out. So let's go ahead and get into the video. This video takes us all the way back to the good old 2016 in Springfield, Missouri. I finished with my undergrad in health services with a minor in nutrition in December of 2016. And there was no one in this world that could tell me that I wasn't going to nursing school. That was what I was going to do. I wanted to be a nurse. I had thought I wanted to be a nurse since maybe like high school times. I wanted to be a nurse practitioner, actually. I wanted to be a nurse practitioner working in labor and delivery. And I actually have a really good friend of mine, Taylor, that is a nurse practitioner working in labor and delivery. So I actually love that. I get to like see what she does a little bit and everything. And I'm like, get it, girl. That was in my path, and that is okay. So that was what I originally wanted to do. So I had declared nursing as my major, but there was this class, physiology. And the first time I took it was the same year that my dad passed away, so I definitely didn't pass it. And then I took it again, and I got a D, and in order to get into nursing school, you had to get a C. And if you know me, especially if you knew me back then, I'm a very studious person. If I want something done, it's going to get done, especially when it came to school, because it came easy to me in my later years of school. It came easy to me. But this physiology class, baby, I don't know what it was, but I was struggling. So this was going to be my third time taking it. I told myself, I'm going to take this first test. I'm going to study. I'm going to take this first test. And if I don't pass it, I'm going to take it as a sign of God saying that this isn't for me. So guess what I did? I went there and I studied, went to the library, I studied, and I was like, I just couldn't get into it. I just couldn't get into it how I normally got into like my biology and my nutrition classes. I just couldn't get into it. And I was like, either I'm going to pass it or I'm not. And I already made my decision up. So came test day, and guess what? I didn't pass. I didn't pass, which, whatever. I dropped the class. And at that point, I was like, all right, I had already graduated with my undergrad about at the third time I was taking it, which would have been, I think I tried to take it. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I had dropped it, and I was like, all right, it's time for me to look into grad programs, because I'm not going to nursing school at this point. God is telling me that this isn't for me. So I started looking into grad programs, and it was between three. It was between a master's in public health. It was between a master's in health administration and a master's in health promotion and wellness management. Guess what I chose? Master's of health promotion and wellness management. Master's in public health. It was going to be 6 years. I didn't want to do another 6 years. I just did 4.5 in undergrad. I was trying to get in, get out. Okay. I was like, it does sound interesting. And I actually, spoiler alert, I did do like a certificate in public health. So I did still take some public health classes, and I do ultimately want to work in public health, but the degree wasn't for me, and I didn't want to put that time in. Master's in health administration, I had to take another statistics class, and if you know me in math, wasn't happening. So I was like, health promotion and wellness management. I actually talked to one of my good friends about it, and we was bouncing ideas off each other. And he was like, well, it sounds like you want to really educate the people beforehand and put in workshops and things like that so they really know like why it's important to care about your health. And I was like, ding, 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 ding. Health promotion and wellness management, it is. So I did that. I started the classes in summer of 2017, and I graduated spring of 2019. Now, real quick, like I said, I was a very studious person, and school in my later years came very easy to me. Undergrad, I'm not gonna say it was a breeze, but it wasn't that hard. My master's program kicked my ass, okay? Papers on more papers, on big tests, on larger tests, on even more massive tests. Like, I can't even talk. Like, my master's program kicked my butt. And so much so, I think you couldn't get more than 3 C's. I don't know if it's all master's programs, but at least mine. You couldn't get more. If you got 3, maybe even 2, 3 or more C's, you was out. My first semester, I got a C. I got a letter. And it was basically like, you got a C. If you get more, you're going to get kicked out the program. I didn't get another C in that program, baby. I didn't get another C. Matter of fact, I finished my last semester with a 4.0 GPA. Now, granted, I was taking 3 classes, but it was 3 hard classes. And I finished with a 4.0 GPA that semester. And I think overall I graduated with like a 3.78 or something like that. So, in my opinion, pretty studious, you know. Neither here nor there. However, I graduated. I was in the process of graduating, so came April, and I started applying to jobs. And if you know, you know. I was applying to all these different jobs, and everybody was telling me no. And I was getting so discouraged, and I was like, did I just do all this? Like, did I just go through all of this in grad school to not be working in my field? Like, what is going on? Like, I was so discouraged. I got pictures of me at work, because at the time I was working at Mercy Hospital as patient access or whatever, which comes into play later. I was working there part-time, and I was going to grad school, and I was also a GA. So I'm in school, and I got 2 jobs. And I'm still partying and going on campus, kicking with people. I got friends and stuff. Like, life, it was great, but it was a lot. And I was getting all these no's, and I was just getting so discouraged. And I would be at work reading like my responses to my job applications and all that stuff, getting all these no's, and you're great, but you don't have the experience. You got the education, but you don't have the experience. You got the energy and the attitude, but you don't have the experience. And my whole thing was, if don't anyone give me the experience, then I'm never going to get the experience, right? It wasn't clicking. And right before I left, I had interviewed for 2 different jobs that I really thought I was going to get. One at KU, they told me no. And then one with St. Louis University. And I was like, oh, this is great. I'll go home. I'll be at home with my people, da-da-da-da. But they eventually told me no as well. So fall rolls around. I'm still in Springfield, Missouri. I'm now working at the hospital. I was part-time, but I'm picking up as many shifts as I can. So I'm working 13, 14-hour days just so I can have that money. And I was like, I gotta go home. I don't want to be here in Springfield. It's just this ain't what I want. So October came around. My brother and my sister came down, packed me up. I transferred my lease over into my ADP name. Shout out to Niche. So I didn't have to pay for breaking the lease or anything. Transferred it over into her name. And I packed up and I moved back to St. Louis in October of 2019. Which brings us into what y'all said with me, COVID. And mind you, I was working at the hospital. Now I'm working at the hospital full time, checking in people for like labs and blood work and surgery and different things like that. Um, and while I was there, I was still so discouraged. I was still applying to all these jobs, and I ended up getting like a PRN job that was in my field, but it wasn't enough, obviously. And I think I was making $13 and some change an hour, which no shade to people that make or have been making whatever. I just was like, there's no way. I went to school, you know. I went to school, did my undergrad, did my master's to be not even working in my field and making $13 an hour. I was like, you know what? That I did a pros and cons list of what quitting my job would mean, and the pros outweigh the cons. So I quit. Did I have a job? No. But applying for a job is a job. You just ain't getting paid for it. That is a lot of work. And two, a lot of people wanted to interview me in the morning, but because I was working full time, it made it so much harder to make it to these interviews and everything. So I ended up quitting my job, and that was the process of me betting on myself. So February 2020, if I can insert my little Instagram photo here, I will. February 2020, I decided to quit my job and bet on myself, and that's exactly what I did. After that, I went home. And I got some PRN jobs, still not really doing what I wanted to do. They were all kind of health related, but they weren't doing what I wanted to do. And one thing I really focused on was my mental health during that time, because like I told you, I was already kind of like, what? I can't find a job, da, 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 da. And at this point, I had quit my job. And my mom was on my head about it. Like, it was a hard time. And I would go to the park every Thursday. It wasn't even a park. It was like Ridner High School, little trackway. And I would go there every Thursday. I would journal, which I brought my journal here because I wanted to read some of you guys my passages. I would go there. I would journal. I would meditate. I would work out. I would just kind of sit there and manifest my life and what I wanted out of my career. And just in general, but mostly out of my career, because at that point in time, nothing else mattered to me but the health of my family, obviously because COVID was happening, and finding a job in my career field. Should I read my passages now or should I read them later? I'm gonna read them later. Okay, so I quit my job in February. In about April of 2020, I had been applying to jobs outside of St. Louis at that point. Also, shout out St. Louis. It's the home. I was applying to all these different jobs, and one of the jobs I applied to was a nutrition teacher in Kansas City, Missouri at Wellspring School of Health. And I just thought it was fitting because it wasn't what I wanted to do, but it was closer to what I wanted to do. It was focused on nutrition. Obviously, I was teaching nutrition. I was a graduate assistant in grad school, so I had a little bit of experience teaching. And I was like, I need something. And this is a really good lesson for people because, like I said, this wasn't what I wanted to do, but it was closer. I knew, other than those little PRN jobs I was picking up, this job was closer to getting me to where I wanted. So I had to humble myself and be like, yeah, Maisha, you got a master's, but people saying you need the experience. So let's get this experience. So that's what I did. I took this job, and I was a instructor, and I taught nutrition classes, and I did that I moved to KC. Shout out to my uncle because he let me move in with him because I was not making enough to be able to pay rent. I moved in June of 2020. And I was doing that. And then in August of 2020, I applied to work at the YMCA as a healthy living coach. Again, I wasn't making, whatever. But this is going to give me the experience of like working with people, coaching them on health and wellness stuff, doing fitness and everything like that. And a lot of jobs I was applying to that were health related, they wanted you to niche down. Either you were a dietitian, a personal trainer, you had experience in grant writing, or you was just like very niched. And I didn't have a niche. I had always been interested in fitness. So at that point, and the YMCA offered me a discount. So at that point, I was like, let's go ahead and apply for this personal training license. Again, shout out to my uncle because he paid for it. And baby, when I tell you I locked in like I was back in school. And this is how I know God laid this path out for me, because I would go to work. I was working 2 jobs. I would go to work. I would come home. And when I say my head would be in them books for like 4 hours a night, I'm back writing flashcards, all kind of stuff. Like I'm back in school. And yeah, so I did that, and I took my test, and I passed it on the first try, and I am NASM certified personal trainer. And, you know, I'm going to go ahead and brag real quick. Personally, you know, NASM is not easy. NASM is not easy. It is very science-based. I come from a science background, so it made sense for me. It is very science-based. It was a hard exam, and I passed on the first try. I'm so proud of myself. As much work as I put in for that, hell yeah. Hell yeah. So, I did that. Got my personal training license, and then I started personal training. And then at that point, I had this vision. I had always had a vision for Well Balanced. But at the time, it was called My Wellness Matters. And I had an idea, but I really had no direction. So once I became a personal trainer, I was like, I got it. So that's when I really started focusing on that. So at this time, I was an instructor working at the YMCA in personal training, and then also building like the building blocks of Well Balanced. So I was doing that, and then I was still looking for jobs. I don't want to get emotional. If you know me, you know I'm May of 2021, I was looking for jobs, and I saw this job, and it was for a corporate wellness coordinator with WebMD. Yes, like the WebMD. I feel like, you know, WebMD be like, oh, you got a headache, oh, you got brain cancer, oh, your throat hurt, oh, it's throat cancer. And people make jokes like that, and it is funny because it's like, dang, it'd be exaggerating. But, I mean, if we're being honest, let's be real. If you got a headache, it could be brain cancer. That is not to be funny, and that is not, you know, to negate, like, it probably ain't that serious. But it could be a symptom. So I say that to say, for everybody that want to talk about it, you have to be super specific about what's going on with you so it can give you better answers of what might be happening. So that's my little 2 cents right there. Anyway, I saw that position, and I was like, I don't think I'm ready yet. I'm going to wait a little bit. And then I want to say like 3 weeks later, I was looking again, and that job was still up there. And I was like, I think it's a sign. So I wanted to pause the story right here to insert a quick little tidbit that I forgot to say. When God tells you to move, it's important that you listen to him and move. So I saw that job, and that was God telling me that this is it, this is my time, go ahead and apply for it. And I felt like I wasn't ready, so I didn't apply for it. At the same time, the job that I was making the most money from, the YMCA with training, was playing with my schedule, changing my hours and stuff like that. And that is what pissed me off, and I applied to that job. So God forced me to move at that point. So listen to him the first time. I don't know if it's just me or if it's a girl thing or what, but a lot of things be signs. I don't know. I was like, I think it's a sign. I'm going to apply to it. And I applied to it. And I did my interview with my manager, Jennifer Macher. I love her. She's amazing. And I got the position. And I was making a good salary. You know, it wasn't what I was told I should be making, but it was more than I had ever made in my past. I was in my field finally. And I was like, yes, this is it. And I'm working for the WebMD. Like, come on now. And I'm working at the General Motors plants. Like, these are big names, you know? So I'm like, cool. So if you knew me at that time or you know me, I was like, I finally got my big girl job. So I started that job, and I loved it. And it was everything that I needed it to be. It definitely gave me a base for my career and stuff. My managers were great. My team was great. I have no complaints. Obviously, as time goes on, things change and stuff, but it wasn't anything horrible. But come 2020, end of 2022, 2023, I was like, I should be making more money. Point blank simple. I was like, I should be making more money. I knew the company wasn't going to give it to us, and that's no shade to them. I knew we wasn't going to get it. So I was like, all right, I need to start applying to jobs. But what I did was, you had to be working there for 3 years to be vested. So I was like, I'm going to make my 3 years. So 21, 22, 23, 24. I was like, I'm not going to even apply. I keep my eye out and just kind of look to see what's available, but I'm not going to apply to nothing because I want my 3 years for my 401k to be vested. Because if you're into finances, you know, if you leave before you vested, any money that the company put in or matched you, they take it back. Whereas once you're vested, you leave with everything in your account. So when I left, baby, my 401k, I left in 2024, so just a year later. When I left, my 401k was a little over $10,000, and I took every penny with me when I left. So I was like, I'm gonna wait till I'm vested before I start applying. So 2024 came, May of 2024 to be exact, I started applying. Yeah, and I got a lot of great experience from WebMD. I had sites that were outside of Missouri. I was in California, Colorado, Nevada, Tennessee, Mississippi. I was going to Detroit for trainings and stuff. Like, this was legit like my first big girl job, and I'm like so excited. But I knew in order to make more money, I had to go. And this is another little hot take from me. I love home. I love the Midwest, but we are slow when it comes to everything. And one of those things, obviously, is health and wellness. So I'm like searching the job market and seeing like where jobs at, and I know how much I'm worth and I know how much I want to make. So I'm looking to see like where could I apply to. And in my research, I found out the coast, both West and East Coast, have a lot of jobs. They pay more, and then also the South as well. So I was like, I need to leave the Midwest. So in 2023, early 2024, when I was looking, I hadn't come to terms with that yet. If I wanted to get more experience in this field, and if I wanted to make more money, I needed to leave the Midwest. So it took me a little bit to come to terms with that. And 2024 came around and I started applying to jobs. I think I had maybe 2 job interviews. They didn't pan out, which is fine. They were both in the Midwest. And the first job I applied to that was out of Missouri was the job I have now, which is in Yuma, Arizona, working at the hospital as a wellness coordinator. Well, the title of it is wellness coach. And when I saw the position, I was like, this is perfect. And the salary was more than what I was looking to get or whatever. But when I say Yuma, I was like, where the heck is Yuma? Let's rewind real quick. When I came to terms with decided that I was going to have to leave the Midwest, I was like, where do I want to go? Where would I go? I said Arizona, Colorado, Texas, Chicago. Not just Illinois, but specifically Chicago. And on my list also was North Carolina and somewhere in Georgia. Those were my 6 places. And so whenever a job came up, and granted there were obviously other jobs in other cities, but when I seen jobs in those cities, that was what I was going to apply to. So that's when I saw the job that I have now. And when I was like, Yuma, I was like, where is Yuma? And I seen it's like 3 hours away from Phoenix. I was like, you know what? I'm going to still apply. If I don't get it, I don't get it. If I do, that's just God telling me that this is for me, because what's for you will not miss you. I want people to hold on to that. What's for you will not miss you. And I truly, 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 truly do believe that everything happens for a reason. The good and the bad things. Rather you learning a lesson from it or you getting a W from it, whatever the case may be. I personally, truly do believe that everything happens to you for a reason. So I applied to the job. Baby, when you want to know how I know this job was for me? I applied to the job, and 20 minutes later, I'm not kidding you, 20 minutes later, the recruiter sent me an email and was like, your resume is amazing. When can we talk? I was like, we can talk right now. You can call me right now. I didn't say that, but I gave her, times when I could talk and everything. And I went through a screening with her. I went through a phone interview with my manager, who I love, Vanessa. I think my interview was with Vanessa and Debbie, who is her manager, which is the director of our department. And then I was actually on a trip with WebMD. I was flying out to Nevada for an event, and they called me. I didn't know they were calling me. I saw the email, and they were like, oh, can we call you in like half an hour? I was like, I'm in the airport for a layover, but yeah. And I'm in the bathroom talking to them, trying to have some type of privacy. They coming over the PA system. Flight, has been delayed. And I'm like, this is so embarrassing. I was like, I'm not going to get this job. Whatever. But the interview was over. They were so gracious about it. The interview ended, and they were like, we want to fly you out for an interview. And I was like, me? You want to fly me out for an interview? Like, yeah, of course. So they flew me out for an interview, and I remember talking to my cousin that lives in California. She was like, Maisha, the job is yours. They're not flying you out to see if they like you. They're flying you out to make sure you like them. So you can see it, see the surroundings, meet them, be in person with them and everything like that. They probably still got some questions for you, but the job is yours. And I was like, I don't want to get too cocky at that point, but I was like, okay, so went out for my interview. Maybe a week later, my offer came, and the salary was up there. I'm so grateful for it. They gave me a move-in expense budget, and then I also got free housing for 3 months. And I'm like, this deal is too good to be true. It did come with a 2-year contract or 1-year contract. And I was like, you know what? I can go out there, put my head down for 2 years, focus, get the experience that I need. And when my time is over there, by the grace of God, it'd be time for me to go somewhere else where, in a bigger city, or even back closer to my family, or whatever the case may be. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it. So I did it. And in November of 2024, I moved down here, and I just finished 1 year at the job. Let me tell you, personally, I'm getting emotional. And I don't want to get into all that right on this video. Personally, it was very hard. I'm not gonna hold you. I came to a city where I know no one. I came to a city where, in all honesty, there's not many of me. I'm a black girl who cares about her natural hair. It ain't nobody out here in Yuma doing natural hair for black girls. Like, well, it is, but we're particular about who we let touch our hair. And that's no shade to nobody. But I'm like, I'm missing my family. That was the first Christmas I didn't spend with my family. That was hard. Oh, God. I did not plan on crying or getting emotional, but I'm happy to say, here I am a year into it and complete 180. Like, I got my place. I'm starting to decorate. I'm not trying to do too much because, whatever. But I got my place. Like, everything is good. Spending time with my family, like, all that, And I'm so grateful. And my job, which is the biggest thing, I just did my 1 year review, and I got my annual raise, which was a little bit above the average. So, I definitely am getting the experience that I wanted. I work very independent. I have learned to really just go with my gut and rely on my knowledge. My manager is amazing. Her guidance is amazing. I've made friends. The only complaint that I have is that I'm not close to my family, and I'm not close to my friends. And it's harder to get to each other, but we still get to each other. And if you're ever contemplating making the decision to leave your hometown to follow your dreams, hear me when I say, do it. Do it. Bet on yourself and do it. And know that it will be hard. You will have lonely times and days and all that, but it will be so worth it. I had made a video on my anniversary. My camera's battery getting low, so I'm going to wrap this up. I had made a video on the anniversary of my 1 year down here, and somebody who I don't know commented, because I was like, you know, if you have the opportunity to leave your hometown to pursue your career, what your heart desires, to bet on yourself, do it. So, and someone commented, and he was like, I tell my kids this all the time: planes, trains, and buses can get you back home. Which is very true. I have taken planes, trains, and buses to get me between here and Phoenix and home. So definitely take the opportunity to bet on yourself if the opportunity arises. Don't let anyone, not even your parents, your best friend, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever, don't let anybody discourage you. You know what you want in your heart, and you know what you're capable of. And you can do it, and you got to have God in your life. If that is your religion, you got to have God in your life, and you got to have that faith and put your worries onto Him and pray and know that He wants the best for you. He already has your life, you know, planned out. What does it say? For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not harm you. That is real. That is real. So please use this as advice and a little bit of encouragement to bet on yourself, and know that everything will not work out how you want it to, but God is making sure everything works out in your favor. Things you don't even think you need, wouldn't even expect, things you don't think you're going to do, or whatever the case may be, God has the final say, okay? I think that was all I got. I'm going to make a different video reading my little journal things so you can all see. Like, I literally, when they say write it down and make it plain, write it down and make it plain. Not everything has come true, but 87%, 85, 80, whatever has come true. So I think that's amazing. Yeah, if you guys have any questions for me about this video, anything I said, go ahead, drop it in the comments, or DM me on any of my social platforms, Maisha Danielle, or Living My Life on TikTok, and I'll definitely be here to answer your questions and help you out. I hope this has been encouraging. Remember to always bet on yourself. For me, Faith Day 2020 is a thing, okay, baby? Faith Day 2020. Bet on yourself. Don't let anybody tell you different. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you feel motivated. I hope you got a little bit of knowledge and some laughs from me. I told you I was a yapper. So we'll see how long this video came out. But I'll see you in the next one.